So, ladies and gentlemen, I have Dr. Sandeep Kanoli, back on my channel after a long time, and I've been wanting to get this video for past 3 generations, and finally, I am making it happen. I am making it happen. Okay, because he has some brilliant techniques he has been discussing with me on my phone, and I'm like, come on, discuss it, discuss it, discuss it. And so finally I got him today, and he's going to be showing you some brilliant techniques which just work through Steve Jobs' horoscope. So Dr. Kanoli, what do you have for us?
Okay, namaste Kapilji, and namaste to all your viewers. First of all, yeah, as you said, you have been waiting for a long time. Sincere apologies on that front. I know we are.
He is taking steroids. Like, I'm gonna increase the power of.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be. I appreciate your patience with regard to that. Finally, I just decided, okay, let's just get this done.
Look at my hair. I'm losing hair. I've been very patient. Look at this hair. Yeah, that's how long I've been waiting.
Yeah.
I had my hairline up to here when we started discussing, and now it's up here. So hey, better late than never. Still got some hair left.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Anyways, thank God. Let's before you lose all your hair, right? Really, so I really appreciate your patience with regard to this, Kapilji. So anyway, today I really wanted to introduce some very simple techniques, with Vimshotri Dasha, and basically also the kind of you apply the Tribhagi concept upon the Vimshotri Dasha in a different manner, and this is going to be very simple. So consider this as a simple introduction video. That's what I would say. And so here I have the chart. The chart is that of an ascendant in Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. Okay. So now, if I was to show you this and tell about this native as okay, ascendant is Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra is a partnership nakshatra. And say if I was able to tell this native, you will form a company with a best friend, and that company's name will be the name of a, and that company is going to generate millions and will last for a time. This is going to be very difficult to immediately see purely from the nakshatra perspective alone, But what is very interesting is that if I tell you the name, which is the name of Steve Jobs, right? Who actually, whose chart we will be actually discussing, is very clear. So, and he was the one who formed a partnership with his friend Steve Wozniak and literally created Apple, right? And Apple itself is named after Uttara Phalguni, is a fruit nakshatra also, right?
Really?
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, Uttara Phalguni is literally Uttara Phalguni.
Oh, right? Yeah, Phalguni. Exactly. Oh my God.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So you see that, so you can see how nakshatra themselves are very powerful just by this, just by telling about the name of his company. And this definitely works. I've seen like there are many charts who with Uttar Phalguni, Pura Phalguni, they love fruits, they love smoothies, things of that nature, So that definitely works. But in Steve Jobs' case, it manifested as an entirely different corporation, because Sun itself is going into Aquarius sign, which is the multinational corporation. Now, so before that, I also wanted to introduce a very simple technique of combining Moon ascendant and Rashi ascendant. So usually we tend to Rashi ascendant separately, we learn ascendant separately, and then we make predictions. But then if you combine both, then it's a very powerful technique by itself. So for instance, here I have written the Rashi ascendant houses for it. So Leo ascendant, so the houses based on Rashi ascendant is written here. And then again, now rest of the houses based on Moon ascendant, which is Moon in Pisces. So you can see Moon ascendant house is actually beginning from here, first house, second house, third house, fourth house, all the way through 12th house. Now, if you look at one single Rashi and you were to look at the corresponding houses. Now, if someone was to ask career for this native, we would normally look at the 10th house from the Rashi ascendant. So which would be Taurus here.
Oh,
Now,
wait. Okay, so from the moon, you're saying that Leo is in the sixth house, Virgo is in the
exactly,
seventh house, Libra goes eighth from it. Okay.
exactly, exactly. So from the moon, Virgo is in the 7th house,
Yeah.
Leo is in the 6th house, and from Pisces will be when it becomes first with respect to the moon. Here, what I'm asking is that say like if you were to ask career of the native, so you would look at the 10th house from the Rashi ascendant, which is falling in Taurus for Libra sign.
Yeah.
But then what is this particular Rashi? What house is this particular Rashi falling in with respect to the moon ascendant? You find that the Taurus is falling in 3rd house from the moon ascendant, right? So now look at, so what is Steve Jobs' career, right? His career was about relation devices or 3rd house teams, business, all those kind of teams, which is very, so now houses, you just got a good clue. 10,000 3rd house teams will be there in his career. Now you can do the reverse logic and make 10th house from the moon ascendant now. Now look at the 10th house from the moon ascendant, that is actually falling in Sagittarius sign. Now, if you look at Sagittarius sign from the Rashi ascendant, it is actually falling in his 5th house. So now his career will also have a flavor of 10th house and 5th house teams also. So, definitely investment, creativity, and he was huge in, Pixar animation movie. The reason we know story becoming famous is because Steve Jobs believed in that idea. He pushed for that idea also, So exactly that. So, now you can it's a very simple technique. You're combining the houses from moon ascendant and the Rashi ascendant. So usually we analyze it separately. Combining them gives you a completely different picture, deeper picture. So this is the first technique which I wanted to introduce.
Okay.
It's a very simple
No, this is
straightforward.
great. Yeah, simple and yeah, makes sense.
Right. So next is simply looking at again going through the pie map and pie Paddhati themes. So what you see is that I've shown here the pie map of his ascendant nakshatra of Uttara Falguni. So is the nakshatra lord for Uttara Falguni. The soul cycle number is 4. The Rashipada number is 9. So 4th house themes of family will be very strong for Steve Jobs, and Rashipada number is 9. So Steve Jobs was actually adopted. Steve Jobs was separated from his birth parents, and there was this lot of drama around that. His birth parents were very well educated, whereas his adopted parents weren't. And then his birth parents weren't willing to hand Steve Jobs over to his adopted parents unless they were educated. So the moment of his birth itself kind of triggered this family and education themes. This 4,000, 9,000 themes of hierarchy. Now Steve Jobs was also to Zen. He's the person who literally exemplified Zen or the simplistic, minimalistic design concept upon electronic in the field of electronics. So that also can be seen here. And he was very much into philosophy. He was a great philosopher, a great visionary too. So if you look at the houses that are activated with respect to Sun, the nakshatra lord, you find that the Sun is exalted in Aries, which is the 9th house with respect to Leo ascendant. Sun's Multrikon is actually falling in 1st house of Leo, and Sun rotated in 3rd house, And from the natural zodiac, so one simple technique which I wanted to introduce was to always look at the natural zodiac. Never ignore the natural zodiac, no matter what houses the other houses
Yes.
always. That will always give you many clues. So you can see, so Sun's exalted 9th house. So foreign travel, philosophy can be combined again with his own individuality. And that was a big theme for him. For Steve Jobs, it was a big deal that he had to go to India. That he had to go to India, visiting ashrams, and things of that nature. That was a big deal, Steve Jobs, And that itself is again can be seen easily by the Sun's exaltation happening in his 9th house. Now, Sun's definitely you have to combine all the 3 houses and all the 3 Rashis also to get a much better flavor. So you can see that Sun's Multrikon falling in 1st house of self, which is also like his life path began when he started off his foreign travel journey to India. And then after that was when he actually started off his business. 3rd house of business, 3rd house of communication, 3rd house of hobbies and friends. You can see again from the natural zodiac, this third house where sun is getting debilitated in Steve Jobs chart is actually the natural seventh house of business too.
Yeah, he
Again,
was
you're
very
combining.
harsh with his communication with his colleagues and people.
Yes,
Like, they
exactly.
hated him. 80% of the workforce just hated him to the
Yes,
core.
exactly. They were actually afraid. They were actually afraid
Yeah.
whether they would get fired or not. And definitely he had a very strong, very powerful, on your face kind of sun solar kind of communications. So it's as if here again I do highlight the point that sun being debilitated in particular rashi doesn't always mean it's always bad. It's just that there might be a void of sun's energy built, and that energy will always come out and to fill up that particular house in that particular region. So his communication style had to be in a third house manner.
He
It would
worked on it most
exactly,
where it was
exactly
debilitated.
that,
Yeah.
exactly that. So yeah, so this is again a similar technique. So again, just like combining rashis and then moon, as I mentioned before, always combine the houses with the natural zodiac. This should be a given, anyways. Now here again, I'm going to explain this concept of invisible influence of a particular planet again with respect to Steve Jobs' chart. So you can see that. Let's see. Yeah. So moon is in Uttarabhadrapada nakshatra, and you see here Uttarabhadrapada nakshatra by Saturn. And if you look at the Saturn's in Rashi, Saturn is exalted in Libra, which is actually 8 houses away from Moon in Uttarabhadrapada. Saturn is having its Multrikon in 12th house from Uttarabhadrapada, and Saturn is getting debilitated in second house from Uttarabhadrapada. And Saturn is the 11th lord and 12th lord. Again, Steve Jobs had lots of ups and downs with respect to joint assets. Like the moment you could say he had difficulty. It's kind of interesting thing with Steve Jobs because one of the stories about Steve Jobs is like how he was very wealthy, but still he wouldn't give any money to charity as such. He
Yeah.
was very selective
Yeah.
about charity. The other thing is also you can see this. Steve Jobs also was a great visionary in terms of changing communication devices and things of that nature. But you don't see that immediately when you look at the Saturn ruled houses and Saturn ruled rashis. But then, if you consider the fact that Mercury is actually debilitated in Uttarabhadrapada, now you have this mercurial influence coming out. So you can see that Mercury exaltation in 7th house, Mercury is Multrikon in 7th house, Mercury debilitation in 1st house, and Mercury being the ruler of 4th house and 7th house. Immediately, like you can say about this native that this person is someone who is always connected with the communication devices or very much interested in making some kind of business or something with technology would always fascinate him because of the invisible influence of Mercury upon his moon. So, and then find these particular houses, Multrikon with 7th house, forming a partnership with a good friend with whom he probably met during his school years, because again, Mercury is the 4th lord. And then, finally forming up a long, which ended up making a lot of wealth. You can say again, so Saturn being debilitated in second house here is actually giving him long-lasting wealth actually. Now, so this is one simple way to get the potential of the chart.
Let me ask you again. So Saturn debilitated second from the moon is giving long-lasting wealth.
Right.
Explain that again. How is that occurring?
Right. So the way to activate, so the assumption with the debilitation, Multrikon and exaltation Rashi is that the Rashi is having a void of Saturnian energy, right? And the Multrikon Rashi is having slightly higher Saturnian energy. And the exaltation Rashi is having the most Saturnian energy there. And then, if you were to use activate the exaltation Rashi more, and then once you activate, pass on energy from the exaltation to the Multrikon Rashi. Then from the Multrikon Rashi, you can again this particular Rashi and then pass on energy from the Multrikon Rashi to the debilitation Rashi. The debilitation Rashi will end up trying to balance it out. The Saturnian energy present in the chart will try to balance itself out in all the three Rashis. So because of that, you'll find the Saturnian qualities exhibiting itself through the debilitation Rashi, right? And so, but see, what was particular about Steve Jobs, right? Now,
He was
Steve Jobs,
stingy. He like a second from the moon shows the hoarded wealth and the hoarded things.
Exactly.
And he was very much about keeping the money to himself. and
Exactly.
very cheap, stingy, not even giving stock options to people. So
Exactly.
I can
Yeah.
see that. Yeah.
And a lot of secrecy also. Look, 8,000, 12,000. You can see that a lot of secrecy was also connected with Steve Jobs. He was very secretive. He was
Apple is the most secretive company out there. They're the one who
exactly
started the trend of being secret.
exactly that. So so it's as if that you shouldn't worry about particular Saturn getting debilitated in any particular Rashi. The moment when you activate the corresponding other houses, like which Steve Jobs did with respect to 8,000, 12,000, it was always a sudden declaration. Now see Saturn being exalted in 8,000, and that's following the natural 7,000 of the zodiac. So he always ensured that the business meetings were always, what is very strict or very disciplinary. And there's like this whole list of things you can know about how he conducted his business. It was very strict, and always whenever he was, he definitely every presentation which Steve Jobs gave, literally he would have practiced it like 10, 12, or 20 times before he actually delivered the entire presentation. You
Mhm.
can see that team working out here in terms of public appearances, in a big way. So Saturn being exalted in the natural sound of the zodiac, but in a secretive way, actually. No one would know, what he's going to do, stuff like that. So here I'm using the invisible influence of Mercury again, to use the idea that look at the planets getting exalted, debilitated, annual tricon in a particular nakshatra or so. And then now here is something interesting which I want to present. Interesting thing. So here I'm going to, so this is the concept of Vimshottari Dasha, right? So what is Vimshottari Dasha? Vimshottari Dasha is you calculate Vimshottari Dasha based on the moon position, and then determining how far the moon in the nakshatra, you determine the beginning time period, right? So moon has traveled almost 3/4 length Bhadrapada nakshatra for Steve Jobs, and so you can see that he had this X corresponding time is actually his Uttarabhadrapa. He was born in the Saturn Dasha, which clearly explains his birth and step parents and all that. And then he had 19 years of Mercury Dasha after Saturn Dasha, which is what is here. Let's see. Yeah. And then after that, he had Ketu Dasha, and then Venus Dasha, Sun Dasha, and on, right? So you have, this is the natural Dasha progression. But what is actually happening? So it's actually that it is beginning at this point, and then you're going to Revati, which is actually Mercury rule nakshatra. And then, you have the Mercury period corresponding for 19 years. You have the Ketu sub period, which is again corresponding for 6 years, right? So that is also the 7 years, sorry. And then you have again Venus time period, which is again 20 years. So basically the ascendant from the moon is actually progressing towards through each of these individual stars. That is what is actually happening. So you can see moon began in Uttara Bhadrapada, then as time is progress, the planets, the corresponding nakshatras are also changing. That is what is actually happening here. So this gives us some interesting mathematical tricks, to determine some more clues. So if you look at so here what I'm doing is that if you make this assumption, right? So you have 120 years in the end from this moon time period until the end of the Vimshottari Dasha. Actually, the completing the cycle until moon's exact degree is 120 degrees away from its original position, if that makes sense. So like you start off from moon's degree 120 degrees later. So remember, right, 120 degrees later or
Okay.
120 years later, you reach the end of the Vimshottari Dasha cycle. That is what is happening here. So 120 years is corresponding to 120 degrees. Now, here is an interesting thing. You can convert this into an entire circle. So you basically, if you would multiply 120 degrees into an entire circle, you multiply 120 degrees into 3, you get 360 degrees. You get an entire circle, right? So this is a basic proportion, right? To get the
Yeah.
same exact ratio, so 120 times 3 is 360. So if you're multiplying here by 3, you have to divide here by 3. So 120 years divided by 3 is giving you 40 years. So 120 years divided by 3 is 40 years. 120 degrees multiplied by 3 is 360 years, 60 degrees. But then, you can say that 40 years would actually correspond to the 120 degrees in one way. Like, let's see, let me just put it in a simpler fashion. So it's like you can divide the 120 years by 3. So the whole concept of Tribhagya Dasha is that you can make a division of this of a particular dasha divided by 3. So 120 years divided by 3 can definitely give you what you say 40, right? So, and if you were to assume that this 40 years corresponding to 360 degrees, right? Well, 120 years is corresponding to 360 degrees. Then 40 years should be corresponding to 120. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it will make much more sense, So what I'm doing here is basically, here I'm saying 120 years is corresponding to 120 degrees. But then if you maintain the same proportion, I'm saying that you can actually make 40 years correspond to 120 degrees again, based on the Bhagya Dasha concept. It's as simple as that, And then what does this imply? Now, you have 0 to 40 years actually for following the complete Vimshottari Dasha cycle again. But now, length is 40 years, the corresponding smaller subperiods have changed, So like, this is the based on the Tribhagya concept. So I'm dividing the original time periods by 3. So say like now, before you had, let's say, before you had Mars Dasha for 6 years, the actual Mars Dasha, based on the original Vimshottari Dasha. But now for the Tribhagya Dasha, the Mars Dasha would actually be 2 years. Now, so there is this corresponding now the time period has changed here, So you can see this Saturn, Mercury, Ketu, but this entire Vimshottari Dasha cycle is ended by the time period it is 40 years old,
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
you're trying to compress the 120 years in 40 years.
Exactly that.
So the 19 year of Saturn Dasha may become like 8 years or something. Okay.
Exactly that. Now see, this gives us to a very simpler maths analysis. Okay. So 40 years is corresponding to 120 degrees. Okay. Now divide this equally now. Divide it by 4. So now 10 years is corresponding to 30 degrees. Or 1 year is corresponding to 3 degrees. Okay. Now you are dividing 10 here, and then is corresponding to 3 degrees. So 3 degrees from the motion is actually pointing to the 1 year, what will happen at the 1 year mark. Because 4 is corresponding to 120 degrees, 10 years is corresponding to 30 degrees. Because you are dividing this 40 year by 4, so this is the 40 year time, right? So 40 year is divided by 4, right? So now you have this 10 year is actually corresponding to 30 degrees or 1 sign Rashi, right? And 1 year is corresponding to 3 degrees within that particular Rashi. So what is this actual meaning of this? Now here in the previous cycle, you can see that, the would be triggered when around the period of 20 years. Because in this progression on the natural Vimshottari Dasha, he was actually running Ketu Dasha when he founded his Apple company, So like when his Ketu Dasha was activated, he got Ashwini Nakshatra got activated, Mars and Ashwini got activated, and exactly around when the progressed moon is reaching here, at the Mars position. Exactly then, that's when the time period when he found Ashwini Nakshatra, he literally found his Apple company with a good friend and all that. Exactly Mars in 9,000 Ashwini Nakshatra energy is played out. But then, so here that is what is happening in 20 years for the original Vimshottari Dasha. And then his Ketu is only activated in 85 years, and based on this 20 years for 120 degrees progression. But say if you were to apply it for 40 years cycle, what you find is that if his moon degree is 14 degrees, in 10 years time, 14 degrees of Aries will be activated. And then the next 10 years, 14 degrees of Taurus will be activated. So at 20-year mark, 14 degrees of Taurus will be activated. And then, as you know, what is interesting about Taurus is that, it was this 10th house, 10th house also Rohini Ascendant, and definitely, a lot of wealth was generated. And again, again at 30-year mark, his 14 degrees of Ardra will be activated. 14 degrees of 14 degrees of Gemini or 14 degrees of Ardra will be activated. And what was interesting is that the moment he entered into what you'll find if you look at actually Steve Jobs' life is that around 35 years or so he was forced to leave Apple.
Yeah.
So it's around this time, after 30 years or so, around 35 years or so, you can see that when Punarvasu Nakshatra was literally activated, he was forced to leave Apple. There was some kind of loss that was happening. So this Jupiter became in Punarvasu, and Jupiter is retrograde in Ardra. Jupiter is actually in Punarvasu, it's retrograde, and Ketu is in Ardra. So it was literally that he had to deal with some kind of past karma in terms of leaving the company which he started. But at some kind of always knew that he might actually end up coming back. And what did he end up doing? During this 35-year mark, 30 to 40-year mark, he actually founded a company which was very much into universities and setting up, distributing communication devices or high-end research mainframe devices. You can see this Jupiterian energy of Punarvasu and Pushya was definitely activated. Now the 40-year mark would be when the 14 degree moon would be activated further. So it's as if, so basically I'm saying you can take any particular moon degree, add 10 years to it, that the same exact moon degree in the next Rashi will be activated. That's it. That's what it comes down to. So this is a very simple Tribhagi Dasha compression, but then, yeah, again, what happens after 40 years, right? Again, the same Vimshoti Dasha is further activated, So you find the same Vimshoti Dasha continuing further. But again, the same will be activated. And what is interesting is that, so for happened 50 years, and he actually passed out when he was 60 years or so, if I'm not mistaken, 50 or not, I don't remember.
56,
so
I think.
Right, 56. So 56 would actually give him like 40-year mark is this, 50-year mark is this, and 56 is actually his ascendant, very close to his ascendant time period. So like you can say 50 years is would be 14 degrees of Leo, and then one year is 3 degrees, right? So like 14. So 51 is 17 degrees, 52 is 20 degrees, 53 is 23 degrees, 54 is 27 degrees. Now go to 56 time period. Exactly that time period was when his ascendant got activated. And then the moment when that got activated, it was kind of his body became the full attention to him. He had to retire from his work, all of that. And that was a big deal. So yeah, but definitely you can see how this compressed Vimshotri Dasha is also giving you hints at the main focus of your life. So yeah, this might sound very complicated, but then what I would say is that look at the final formula which you're getting. The final formula is that every 10-year mark, the 30 degrees position from your moon will be activated, or the same exact degree from your moon will be activated in this particular progression.
So the easiest way to explain this is that the moment you're born, 10 years from that point, 30th degree from moon will be activated.
Exactly that.
Okay.
Exactly.
I get this. Okay, so if somebody's born at 1 degree of moon in Aries,
yes,
10 years later, it'll be the first degree of Taurus that'll be activated.
Exactly.
Then after the 20th year, the 30th degree from Taurus will be activated, which would be then Mriksira.
Exactly.
And then the 40th year, it'll activate Punarvasu.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly. And then,
okay.
Yeah. And then if you have a planet there, then you can expect heavy duty karma.
Okay.
The karma is going to be activated there. Some kind of karma will be activated during that time. And look at Steve Jobs, right? So Punarvasu, you had Jupiter there. Literally, 10 years of his life or his school years when Mars would have been activated, he had a very difficult year. He was a genius who was literally bored in his classroom. And Mars was definitely activated for him, creating troubles and all of that. And then you can see Steve Jobs' case around 35 to 36, Punarvasu got activated. Jupiter is retrograde, is conjunct Ketu. So like you find all those planetary energies being activated further. And then Jupiterian energies made sure that he had to complete some kind of past life karma with regard to educational institutions, which is exactly it, And then because Jupiter is also further aspected by Venus, he also got into filmmaking, or he actually bought George Lucas this Industrial Lights and
And
Magic.
didn't he get married in early 90s or something?
So Steve actually has an interesting thing with regard to his marriage. Like he actually, not many people are aware about this, but then he actually kind of denied that his first child was his. And he was like very strong man against that. He was like, this is not my child, things like that. And literally his initial girlfriend had to take him to court and then get the DNA test and finally get that done. You can see all of that playing out based on his chart again. You can see his Rahu is in Mula Nakshatra, conjunct Venus. So, and it's falling in his 5th house. So here in this particular chart, you can see that in ascendant here, his 5th house is actually where Venus Rahu is there. So he definitely had some pending karma with respect to.
Sandeep, you're frozen. Hello? I think we lost Dr. Cannoli, but by the time till he comes back, the easiest way to sum up this Tribhagi Dasha is that every 10 years, the 30th degree from your moon, the birth moon, will be activated. That's the easiest way I can describe it to you in like 10 seconds. So every 10 years, so if you're born at 10 degrees of moon in Aries, okay, after 10 years, the 10th degree of Taurus will be activated. Okay, he's back.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So I can say I had some power interruption. But yeah, exactly. So there was some lineage karma there, but definitely that was part of his life story, what that played out with respect to that. And exactly what you described, Kapilji, like as you mentioned, the 10th degree will be activated further. The exact degree of the moon will be activated. And this is a very simple thing. In fact, this can be used in terms of it's no everybody looks only at the Vimshottari Darsha of the moon. But then you can actually begin to look at the Vimshottari Dasha of the rest of the planets. So say you were to look at the Vimshottari Dasha of your 7th Lord,
okay,
then you can kind of see what exactly your wife is going through. Because
okay,
it's the same logic. The Vimshottari, you can look at 10 years now, 10 years from your Venus, which is like exactly activating the exact degree of your Venus, on that particular thing. Again, 20 years from your Venus, again, that particular thing, the same thing again, But that is what I know. Vimshottari Darsha is normally calculated only from moon, but definitely it will work also from Lagna. It will also work from moon. It can or definitely work from sun also, and definitely you can find it from other planets. But this is something I'll just leave it, play with it and find out, more. But I've seen that also working. That's something I can say.
Let me show you a chart here. Let me close this. Okay, so let me share a screen. Obviously, as you know, this is the chart of Amitabh Bachchan. So Amitabh Bachchan became famous, I think, 27th year of his life?
Yes.
Okay, so 71, literally 69, 71. So how can you look at his chart and show?
Right. So let's see. So moon
just
degree
by using the 10 degree concept of the moon.
Right. So moon, what is his moon at? Moon is in Swati. Right. 10 degrees Swati. So 10 years from then, his 10 degrees in Scorpio will be activated. So now it's in Scorpio. 20 years, 10 degrees in Sagittarius will be activated. Right. And then 20, now it's from 26 to 27, right? So you can assume 10 degrees, right? So it's around the Sagittarius and Capricorn border.
Yes.
Capricorn. The moment when he entered into Capricorn, his powerful Saturn got activated. So like,
Yes, because that's 10th, like you said, don't ignore the original placement.
exactly.
Career, 10th house.
Exactly that, and then if you look further, his Saturn is very strong. It's retrograde. He had to, the moment his Saturn, the Capricorn Rashi got activated, he had to like, get into it. And more importantly, I would say also like the nakshatra that would be specifically activated, that would be Uttarashada nakshatra for in that progression, the Purvashada, the Uttarashada nakshatra, right? The Sagittarius and Capricorn ascendant. So literally he would have fought a lot of battles, stuff like
But
that.
undefeated.
Undefeated. He became the undefeated. And look at where his sun is. His sun is activating the sixth house also at that point. Sun, Venus also is activating all that, But then because his Lagna is also Dhanishta, again, if you do the Lagna, same progression thing with respect to his Lagna also, you can find 10 years, right? So after 10 years, 1 degree of
So
Pisces will be
30th year, his Saturn and the fourth house becomes activated.
exactly again. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. So exactly that.
Wow.
So and definitely then after that he couldn't. And definitely if you, this is a very simple thing. And so I told you, so 10 years is the exact degree. You can further divide it again, make it 3 degrees for 1 year too, and make it much more individualistic, much more particular also. But this is basic. It's very simple logic, very straightforward thing. You can say that. Yeah.
And he got married at the age of 31.
Right. Age of 31. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's look at that. Right. So married at the age of 31. Let's see. So moon is at Swati. So 10 years is this thing. 10 years is Scorpio. 20 years is what do you say? Sagittarius. 30 years actually Capricorn. And then 31 years actually, yeah, 31st year would be actually Shravana in Capricorn, right? Now what's interesting about Shravana is that the nakshatra lord of Shravana itself is going into 9th house for him. Also what is interesting is that with Shravana, you find, pi map of Shravana is basically moon is the 7th lord with respect to.
Oh, that's right. Moon is the 7th lord.
Exactly. So you find that going on. Jupiter is there in his 4th house. Interestingly, if you superimpose now Moon ascendant and Rashi chart ascendant, right? Moon ascendant is giving his 7th house. Rashi chart ascendant is falling in his 6th house, the exact 7th house with respect to Moon ascendant. So he literally married someone from his workplace.
Oh man, see that? Yeah, see, this is the easiest explanation. Just use the 10-degree progression from Moon, from the ascendant, from any planet you want.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because if you look at the progression from Venus, 10 degrees would be, or the 30 degrees would be ninth house. Then it'll be the 10th house. Then 31st year will fall in the 11th house.
Right.
So fulfillment of desires, hopes, and wishes will happen.
Exactly.
And then and what degree would be in the Sagittarius would be, I don't think it'll be for Sagittarius, the 15th degree.
It'll be 15 degrees Purvashada.
Purvashada, yes. Nakshatra. Venus is nakshatra, so Purvashada became active.
Right. Yeah, see, now that's a very interesting technique, right? So all the Venusian nakshatra, Venus will definitely play out during the Venus nakshatra. That's probably a simple trick, simple explanation there, which you've described. Look at a particular planet which you're making as the, which you're using this progression technique. Look at when that particular planet's nakshatra is being activated. So you're looking at beginning the progression from Venus. Look at when Venus nakshatra is activated. That will be a stronger time period with respect to that particular planet.
Oh man, this is like, okay, so looks like, how did you discover this? How did you came up with this?
Oh yeah, so this I was just talking with I know as you rightly know I've been talking with this with Radhika Yogi for a long time, and then one of those discussions, let's do Steve Jobs today, let's do Steve Jobs tomorrow, and then we will just talk about this, and then it was kind of interesting. Actually, I also some credit would also go to PVR Narasimha Rao, who actually made a great video about how the progress, how Vimshati Darsha's progression, and he gave a simple forum, one of those old forums, he gave a simple explanation with regard to the Tribhagya Dasha concept. The exact, you can compress the Vimshoti into 10 years, into the 40-year time period, But then I would also say that the 10-year mark was something I just found out accidentally. I just played out with the numbers, and then, guess what? Hey, it actually works. And then I tested it out, and then it became...
So literally, so you don't even need Dasha then. You just go with the moon progression and just start saying things. That's the beauty of this.
Exactly.
If you don't have a Dasha in front of you and you have the chart, you say, okay, so this is what's happening. Oh man, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. Wow.
Yeah.
So are you taking any courses on this right now, or what?
Yeah. So well, no courses in the near future. But yeah, I mean,
but you gotta have a course on this.
Yeah, well, maybe in the future. Yeah, maybe in the future we might think. Yeah, but yeah, of course, support Cosmic Insights app, stuff like that. That's what I would say. Look at Cosmic Insights website. Look at Insight shop. That's where you can order consultations, stuff like that. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandeep, for showing this. This was amazing. I didn't get the math part, but I got the 10-degree progression part.
Yeah, just use that. Yeah, so just use that, so like 10, if 10 year is giving you the same exact degree, then, you can again further divide it into 10 divisions, right? So 10 year is corresponding to 30 degrees. So that would mean 3 degrees is corresponding to 1 year. That's it.
1 year. Yes. Oh man, that's it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and then you will get much more thing. Yeah, great, Kapil. But I'm really glad that we could finally put to rest.
And I'm so glad it didn't turn out to be a Amitabh Bachchan movie. Length of an Amitabh Bachchan movie with interval and everything. This is great. So thank you so much for coming.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Sure. Namaste.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Namaste.